back.
Yeah, those are pretty
Our,
good.
one trend you hardly ever see is typically your math gets worse as you progress. The older the kids get, the worse the math gets. And ours was almost the exact opposite. The older our kids got, 7th grade math was a little up, 8th grade math was really up, and our Algebra 1 scores, we killed it. They killed it. They buried the state by 20 some odd points. So that's awesome.
So what that kind of says to us is the kids are getting good math instruction at the lower grades, because if they weren't, they wouldn't be able to advance like that. But we're missing something on our
The
lower
level
grades.
of questioning that they ask
Right.
is extreme, yeah.
So-
You have to really, yeah.
And
So
that's,
It's crazy.
and going what Julie said, no longer are you getting a question on a test that says, what is 7 times 9?
No, not at all.
I mean, you're now getting what you dreaded in school, you're getting the word problem.
So
And-
Yeah.
our lower grades, we are not happy
Multi-step,
with.
yeah.
Exactly.
Understand, we are not happy with them at all.
Yeah,
And
that's-
they have to improve. However, the other side of that is, if we're getting better as we go, we're doing a good job with the fundamentals at the lower grade. We have to be. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah, 'cause
logically,
we're
we
down-
have to be. So what we're missing something in the curriculum, or we're missing something in
Maybe it's just
instruction.
in the word problem.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
it's hard because when you teach younger kids, you're used to like doing your math facts.
Yeah, so-
You're not, I mean, and these problems are like, they're testing multiplication, but it will say, Terry had 5 cookies and you had 7 cookies and you both ate twice that amount, but that's not, that, so you have to
Right.
multiply, but then it says, but you ate 8/10 of yours and you ate 3/4 of yours, now how many are left?
Yeah.
Okay, now you came along and you want cookies too, so how many cookies can you have? And by the time you're like, whoa, and that's 3rd grade.
One of the things we want to clarify is
We know that as parents.
one of the things I want to
Yeah.
clarify is that the scores aren't where we want them to be, but that doesn't mean we don't think the teachers are working hard and teaching
It's just
fundamentals
a
and
whole
doing a
new
good job.
level,
Yeah, we just have to change the mindset a little bit and change the instruction and make sure, one of the biggest things in Scott's challenge is gonna be to find those areas in the curriculum that we've missed, those standards that we may not have hit as well as we should have, and that's one of the things that, sorry.
And
I interrupted you, Scott.
and you're absolutely right, and one of the things too is, I hate giving you the entire focus on this. We do plenty of instruction throughout the school year, and then we talk about what happened for 2 weeks in April. But that's the way we're judged, and that's the way we're held accountable, so that's what we're gonna do. But some of the things that we can start looking at is, based on the MAP test or the EOC, and I didn't have EOCs on here simply because they're almost a different animal. So, I put the algebra scores on there in the English 2 scores. The science was a brand new test last year, so they didn't even give us scores back for that this year.
So what do the EOCs look like overall?
Like I said, the algebra was bang, 20 points better. The English 2 was almost right at the state average. I think it was a point or 2 percentage points lower. So it was almost right there. Obviously what I would like to see is more proficient advanced scores. Very little, and every so often you'll see a check mark on there, I think below basic. I want to say it was on the English too. We had very low below basic scores, which is very good. That means you had a fewer number of your kids that weren't just doing Lord terrible on that portion of the test, which is good for us. So if we can increase that. But like Julie said, looking at that type of test, that's the other thing we can do is I can download the practice test, give that to the
Yes,
teachers, start looking at these are the type of questions. So let's start going over these type of questions in class. They can start manufacturing those type of questions for their own assessments rather than just seeing them once on the
And
map.
back to, I know we talked about the skit, back to the calendar, but that's why we wanted to build in those collaboration times to give teachers time to work on some of these things when they're collaborating together.
Yeah, it's hard.
So, I mean, that's the goal of that part of it,
Well,
so.
I do 5th grade homework every week now, and some of it is.
It is hard.
It is, it's
Sorry,
hard.
It's not as hard as that test is, I'm here to tell you.
It's,
Oh my
It's a
God.
challenge.
different than what I'm used to.
And
Like when it says
also,
explain your answer, don't you
Right.
love that?
And-
also right now, as we're preparing to look for in the future, and I'm gonna talk for Scott, I'm stealing some of his thunder, but one of the things we talked about is we know how they scored and where they scored, but we still don't know why they scored what they scored, because the state hasn't released
The benchmark descriptors aren't out yet, supposedly February, but still don't know if that's
Yeah.
when it's
So
gonna be yet.
we know we know what the individual student's score was, and we know where they are, compared to other schools, but we don't know why they scored that yet. We don't have that information yet. And that's a challenge because it's January, the test is 4 months away. So, Scott, what's the plan, what's one of your plans with that?
Well, one of the things we're gonna do is we're gonna start getting the grade levels together. You know, I'm gonna start bringing them out. I hate to rob instructional time, but I really want to make sure that they know let's focus on these things. We can look at the test, you know, if this percentage of the test is gonna be writing, then we need to focus a lot on writing. And let's say if it was 25%, then 25% of what you do, you should be focusing on writing, or whatever it is. So making sure we're doing that. And then, when we do our benchmark tests, like through Study Island, the teachers can generate these reports because every one of those questions is linked to a standard, every single one of them. So if Mandy's taking the test and she missed number 3, and number 3 is linked to this standard, I automatically know Mandy needs help with this particular thing. And if everybody missed number 3, that just shows me I need to take a step back and I need to reteach it to everybody now. So I can have specific RTI for just her, or I can just say, we just need to back up a minute. I need to reteach this for a day or two and go on. So that's specifics.
That's a real challenge for teachers, you know, our teacher
have
in
to
the
have
room.
the
You
data.
can ask Julie
But
how
that's
hard it is
exactly
to
right.
step back and look at all that information
Yeah.
and then reteach it. That is a challenge because the day-to-day activities of a classroom are,
Well, you just get in the habit, that's all I do, I mean,
Right.
that's how I taught, but, you know, you gotta.
But that's the other thing too, is specifically, you know, on our collaboration times, whether it's a Monday PD or a Wednesday PD, if they can get their Study Island stuff together, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, you have to.
what standard did you guys miss? And it's like, okay, maybe we need to rework the way we're
So
teaching.
Well,
one
and you
teacher
can
did
talk-
better, how did they
Right.
teach?
Right,
Correct.
that's
You
exactly
guys
right.
knocked
You
this
get
out of the park.
ideas.
What was your lesson?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, how did you go about it?
You got a
Exactly.
so the plan is in place, we just have to implement the plan.
Yeah.
So it's all there, we just gotta get it rolling. And
Yeah, and the blueprints tell you how the percentages of the types of
Right,
questions.
right.
But those practice tests, have you looked at them?
Yes,
I mean, we give them and we give the you know, the map test, and sometimes it's the exact question,
Yep.
just a different number.
but
But you gotta practice
But
that
you do
a
have to
lot,
practice because it doesn't
it's
matter,
too
because,
hard.
you know, if they
It's
say,
too hard.
I remembered this, but I don't
No,
remember how to
but
do
yeah,
it.
they gotta remember how to
Yep,
do it. It's-
exactly.
yeah. But it's extremely difficult, you have to be prepared, so.
Okay, my question, on the Algebra 1, are these our 8th grade students taking Algebra 1, or is this our freshmen?
These are freshmen,
Okay.
predominantly. Actually, this could be 9 through 12, honestly,
Okay.
but I mean, predominantly, this is 9th graders.
So how many students?
Hmm.
So, I mean, like the majority of our students are in Algebra, but, or do they have to take Algebra?
it's gonna be about 85 to 90.
Yeah, around there.
I didn't know if did they have to take Algebra?
You eventually have to take algebra. If you want to be a
Well-
A-plus student, you have to
Take it, okay.
take and pass the Algebra 1 EOC at advanced or proficient to be an A-plus student.
Okay,
Well, and, you know, this isn't universal, but the trend is that the kids who don't take it as a freshman, they're avoiding it.
right.
So when
Yes.
they get to the point where they have to take it, they don't necessarily score as well as we would like them to. So the majority of this is coming from
And I will
So
tell
most
freshman to
freshmen
sophomore.
And I will tell you
Okay.
this, lots of other schools, most of the other schools in the Big 8, they have a class for their 8th graders
I know, I know.
at
that,
Algebra
yes,
1,
Yes,
and they don't do well.
uh-huh.
Oh, for the vast majority. And so, you know, that was the one thing I got asked is, how are your Algebra 1 scores so good? You know, at 8th grade, and I'm like, we don't do ours in 8th grade. Which I also think goes
And that-
back to, are you mentally prepared and
We
emotionally
don't-
prepared to take a test?
We don't necessarily have enough kids who are ready for algebra in 8th grade.
That's exactly
I mean,
right.
I can tell you my experience in a former district with 200 kids in a grade, 200 kids in 8th grade. We had one section
And it-
of 8th grade
for those
algebra.
of
That
you,
was
it
it, out
would
of
be- it would
200.
be very beneficial.
So we had
but
25 in 8th grade.
It's a
Usually it
logistical
wasn't even quite
nightmare.
20, it was probably around 18 to 19 to 20, because those were the only ones who were ready, and that's out of 200.
Can they take a
So you go to
college
Granby where there's
Could they take
70-some
a
kids in
private
8th grade, or 60-some kids, there's,
class?
yeah, you might have
Just like
5,
a
so.
proctor or-
And they're not losing
Yeah,
anything
the-
by
the
not.
short
being
answer is
there. We have
yes.
some, that's the other thing, if we
But
have
they
a
are
kid
still
who's super
responsible
brilliant
for the
and needs to
EOC.
be pushed, we can get them algebra, and
So
we
if
can
they
just
took
do it a
it, they
different way.
decided to take it
It would just be.
But they still wouldn't take the
Virtual,
test as an
they
8th
would
grader,
still
we'd
take
wait
it.
till they were freshmen.
Okay.
and be responsible.
And he would be on the top end of that.
It
More
should
than
be.
likely.
Should
I mean,
be.
you know,
Or she,
theoretically,
he or she.
gender neutral.
Questions?
Thoughts, comments?
Like I said, you know,
Great information.
want them to go up.
When does this become public?
February, I'm sorry, one last thing. Well, our APR will become public in February, and that will be when those become public in February. Our APR, as upset as we are that, you know, we wish these were higher, our APR went up. And it went up because of some various things, you know. Part of it was this, that's part of it. Our college and career readiness, you know, our kids take our TSAs through Mrs. Mason, through AG. Them doing exceptionally well on those tests help us gain points. Dr. Mitchell talking about our attendance going up, that helped us with points. So those things all led to our APR going up, and I can go into that in greater detail in February.
Well, and one of the things we need to remember is APR is the overall grade, so it's everything, and testing is just one part of that. So if our APR goes up, that means we're doing a spectacular job in the other areas. And so now the goal is to get our testing area up as high as we possibly can. So we're not dropping the ball.
And what you have right here is just a little snapshot. I didn't put free and reduced in there. I mean, I can break it down by gender. I can, you know, there's tons of things you can do, but I just, to me, that's
You
kind
can
of gives
find
you the
that on
snapshot. Exactly.
This is the 30,000-foot view, so you just get an overview of.
And the student reports already went out for, no,
Yeah.
most of you probably know that you got those in December before we went home, so. Any other questions about anything?
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any other old business?
Nope.
Okay, new business. Policy ECA version 2 and procedure ECA AP 2. That does require action, and so we looked at those last month, right, and month before?
Well, yeah, I sent them out to you. It's just saying that we want to adopt this second version of
Okay.
ECA about the school
Okay,
Protection officer.
protection officer.
That is an action.
okay.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded to adopt ECA version 2. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, proceed to vote. All in favor of ECA, raise your right hand. 7-0, motion passes. We'll go on. 2019-2020 calendar. Need a motion to accept.
I make a motion.
Okay, is there a second? And just seconded that we adopt the 2019-2020 calendar that we just looked at, version 2, I believe, or draft 2, whatever it was called.
Number
Any-
2.
Number 2. Any discussion? Discussion?
And that was the one that had the pipe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
The one that we did the meeting.
yep,
That same.
yep, that's
Yeah,
exactly
same
one. Yep.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. 7-0. Ready for the next one? Lawn service.
We took it out to bid last year for 3 years. All American Lawn Service, they bid out the same price for all 3 years, $24,950. I recommend that we go back with them and see if anybody had any issues with that.
Is this their second year?
No,
Third year?
well, it's second year on this contract, but we used them, was
We used them
it
3
3
years
years?
before
How
that.
many?
3 years before, and then last year, so we've had them 4.
This will be year number
Yeah.
5.
Yeah,
Are you okay with
You're happy?
yeah, I'm happy with them.
Okay. All right, need a motion.
I'll make-
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we use All American Lawn Service. Is there any discussion? Discussion. Seeing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor of using All American Lawn Service, please raise your right hand. All opposed, motion passes 7-0. Okay, graduation date.
I think I sent it to you. The recommendation was senior assembly Friday, May 3rd, baccalaureate Sunday, May 5th, graduation Monday, May 6th.
Would you
And
send that
that's
on?
just, it was just the emails in the
Oh.
packet, I believe. Was it not in the packet? It may not have been.
I
I
didn't,
think it's because
Oh,
it was
the
just
email.
gonna be a
I read
discussion.
it somewhere.
I read it, but I don't think it was in the packet.
Maybe I emailed it to you.
It's on the board.
Okay.
Oh, that's where it was, yeah.
I don't know.
It was
how
in
you got
Jeff's.
it, if you got it.
Oh.
It was just a discussion item that we had to inform you what
Baccalaureate
dates
is
they
what
had
day?
picked.
May 4.
May 5th.
No, you said graduation, thank you.
No,
No,
May
it's
6th,
May
May.
6th.
10th is graduation.
3rd is the assembly, 5th is
What the heck, where'd
baccalaureate,
that come from?
6th is
I went to
graduation.
school to be over at 10, so where's
I
the?
guess so.
You may not have it.
Wait,
Yeah, well, it's on Jeff's report. Jeff's report that he wrote.
Monday, May 6th at 7? So if that's it?
I'm sure we
Yeah.
did, so.
It doesn't say a
What was
time.
it there?
We were just wanting to give you the dates, we'll get the times to you.
Yeah, Monday, May 6th, 7 o'clock.
I just don't put it in my calendar.
What's the 10th?
The 4th is a Saturday, and we're not coming.
another day.
Senior assembly is what time?
Third.
third.
I knew it was then.
Fourth, is
I knew
that
it.
Thursday? the
8
third?
o'clock.
No.
8 o'clock?
Friday the third.
8 o'clock.
Friday the 3rd.
Will you just
I
remind us
started to
all this
say, she's
later?
here, just ask her.
I'm not looking back in.
It's on Sunday, graduation on Monday. Graduation, is that a word?
Graduation, yeah, sure.
It
it
And
is.
you laughed
No,
about my name.
graduation.
Come on.
Okay,
All
so,
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
We have to approve the graduation day, right?
Yep. Good question, Judy.
so, okay, so that's about a week earlier than normal. Okay, so when are the kids going to get out, seniors get out? Are they gonna, are they gonna,
It'll be traditionally what we've done in the past.
So those are the 10th? No?
No.
They'll, they're,
Their last day will be Friday the
the
second.
third, Friday the third?
Yeah, that'll be
Friday
the
the
last.
third?
She's right there.
technically, they won't have to be here on the 4th.
That's a
That's
Saturday.
a
anyway.
Saturday.
Yeah, they probably won't be.
You got me
gone.
doing it now.
What is wrong with
Well, I'm
you?
Wondered.
just saying, that's a long time.
He
Yeah,
lied.
That's
So that was
traditionally what we've
karma.
done.
that's not, it's traditionally a week earlier too, that's a
is.
difference.
Well,
2 weeks
they'll
early.
miss the same amount of days that we have.
No,
No.
Yeah.
no, they
No,
won't,
they
no,
aren't.
they will not. If you let them out May, the week of.
Six.
the May.
They normally, the last few years, it's been the second week of, like around 12, 13. And then we get out the following week, so they've been out
It's 2
some,
weeks.
last year it was like maybe 5 days.
But they're getting out, but everybody
This
else
year
is
it'll
out
be
13.
2 weeks.
That's what I'm
No, we
saying,
don't.
they're going to get out, they're
Okay.
going
I
to
thought you
get
said
out.
the 13th.
No,
13.
No.
17.
Oh, I was right. Whoa.
So whatever that week, yeah, that.
I got it right. Go, Mandy.
May 15th. Wouldn't that what they said? No?
Well,
What's the last day?
Yeah, that's. what-
17th.
So they need to go at least through May third. They basically are gonna have to be there, other than, we may just have, well, you're not.
Well, if we graduate them on the 6th, then some of them are gonna have to come back, is that what you're saying, or?
Well, I'm just
No.
saying, they're getting
That's
out
awfully soon.
3 weeks. We're gonna get, if you let them out the first of May, you're gonna let them out 3 weeks before the other kids. Don't we need to count them on our ADA?
2 weeks.
They're going
For
till
2
the-
weeks, I thought it used to be
Till
one
the
week.
3rd.
It
Yeah.
used to be, that's used to be what it was 1 week, and this is going to be actually 3 weeks.
I'll talk to Mr.
Yeah, that just doesn't
Yeah,
look
that-
right. to
Okay,
me.
we wanna wait on
That
this
looks
then?
like, well, no,
It's
wait,
not an
it's
action.
just
It's not action,
graduation
yeah.
day.
It's 9 days.
Yeah.
It's,
I'm just
9
asking on the
days?
days.
Yeah, that's right, remember, we're not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those Mondays is gone, so.
Right.
Okay. All
and
right.
they would normally be out 5 days, so.
Well, if you want to
Yeah,
use
usually a
this
week.
for anything, just.
Usually it's the week
Tenth
of,
and
they
They
should
should
be
before
before.
they're closed, that's a mistake on there.
Okay.
That's the one.
they're-
All right.
they're just missing
Anybody got any
4
thoughts or
days.
questions before we go into closed session?
Yeah, just quick. We gotta vote.
Thoughts, comments? If not,
Hopefully it's a solid year.
pursuant to the state rules, we will go into closed session.
Need a motion.
I need
Motion?
a motion.
Second.
I told you.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of a closed session? Thank you.